Have you ever really stopped to think about how you see the world? I mean, really think about it? Most of us just assume our eyes are like little cameras, and our ears are microphones, just passively recording whatever's out there. But what if that's completely wrong? What if your brain isn't just processing reality? What if it's actively inventing it every single moment?
And this quote, it just nails the core idea. What you and I experience isn't just the world as it is. Nope. It's a constant active partnership between all the data coming in from our senses and what our brain expects to see. It's a true collaboration.
Which brings up a pretty big question. If our reality is a collaboration, then who's the senior partner? Who really gets the final say in what we perceive? The world out there or the mind in here? That's the mystery we're going to try and solve.
Okay, so first up, let's get our heads around this foundational idea. Your brain invents reality. I know, it sounds a little sci-fi, but it's a total game changer for how we think about, well, everything.
So here's the big shift we need to make. We've got to throw out that old idea of the brain as a passive camera just recording the show. The truth is way more exciting. Instead, picture your brain as a little scientist. It's constantly creating hypotheses about the world, running tiny experiments with every move you make, and then updating its theories based on the results.
And this whole idea has a name, the predictive brain. At its core, your brain is a prediction machine. It's always making its best guess about what's going on around you. So the things you see, hear, and feel, that's not raw, unfiltered data. It's your brain's current best guess, which is constantly being tweaked by new info. You could even say your reality is a kind of controlled hallucination.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This whole predictive process doesn't just build your reality of the outside world, it's also how your brain constructs your sense of self.
Think about it. Every single thing you do, from flipping a light switch to telling a joke, is a tiny experiment. Your brain is always predicting, okay, if I do this, then that should happen. And the outcome of that action feeds right back into its internal model, constantly updating its theory of you and what you're capable of.
And this is a perfect example of when that model kind of glitches out. We've all been there, right? Mashing that elevator button over and over. Logically, you know it's not going to make the elevator come any faster, but your brain's internal model of cause and effect gets a little overconfident, trying to force control where it has none. It's a tiny bug in your theory of you.
So this self-model loop is super simple, but it is running constantly, 24/7. You act, you see what happens, and that result refines your whole understanding of who you are and what you can do. This is the feedback loop that literally builds your sense of agency from scratch.
But how does your brain decide if a failed experiment means your whole theory is wrong or if it was just a one-off fluke? Well, that's the job of your self-monitoring system, a process scientists call metacognition, which literally just means thinking about your thinking. It's like this internal judge, constantly weighing whether to stick with what you know or to change your mind. So our brain builds this predictive model of itself. But what's really wild is that it uses pretty much the same playbook to understand other people.
They called this process the Galileo maneuver. And it makes sense, right? Just like Galileo aimed his telescope out at the stars to understand them, your brain first points its instruments inward. To figure someone else out, it starts by looking at its own experience, its own feelings and motivations.
So step one is all about running an internal simulation. Let's say you're trying to figure out why your friend suddenly went quiet. Your brain basically asks itself, okay, what would make me go quiet? And it quickly rifles through its own library of feelings, sadness, distraction, anger, to find a possible match.
And then in step 2, it takes the best fit emotion from that internal simulation and just projects it onto your friend. That becomes its working theory for why they're quiet. You are literally using your own mind as a template to understand theirs.
Now you can probably see the flaw here, right? Because we're using our mind as the template, we're naturally way better at reading people who are similar to us. When we meet someone with a really different background or a different way of thinking, our model can be a terrible fit. This can lead to what's called the double empathy problem. So what's the fix? Well, the source material is pretty clear. We need to seek out diverse social experiences. The more data we feed our brains, the better and more flexible our models of other people will become.
So what is it that drives this entire system? What makes our brains so eager to constantly update their models? The answer is a little chemical you've probably heard of, dopamine.
We usually think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, but that's only half the story. The real driver here isn't just getting something good, it's the surprise. It's the gap between what you expected to happen and what actually happened. An unexpected reward gives you this huge dopamine hit, but a predictable reward, that hit gets smaller and smaller until it's gone. Your brain literally gets bored. And get this, a study on betting perfectly illustrates this. Researchers found that people's happiness wasn't really about winning money. Nope. The biggest factor, by far, was how much they learned, how much new info they got that updated their predictions. The thrill of being right was way less powerful than the thrill of getting smarter.
And that's why curiosity is like a superpower. Unlike rewards like food or money, which give you diminishing returns, the pleasure of learning is a self-renewing resource. Every single answer our brain finds just opens up a dozen brand new, fascinating questions.
But this powerful, amazing, adaptive system has a dark side. What happens when the world itself becomes unpredictable and our predictive models start to break down?
See, your brain has two basic modes depending on the environment. In a stable, predictable world, its strategy is to trust its existing models. It keeps its learning rate low to filter out random noise. The risk there? You can become stubborn. But in an unstable world, that strategy flips. The brain cranks its learning rate way up, desperately looking for new data. The danger now is that everything starts to look like a signal.
And this is where that high learning rate gets dangerous. We become hypersensitive to patterns. It's a survival instinct that's gone haywire, making us see connections where there are none. The source material suggests this is a major reason why conspiracy theories tend to spike during times of huge uncertainty, like during pandemics or social unrest. Our brains are just desperate to find any model that makes the chaos make sense.
So, what's the solution? What do we do? It really all comes down to balance. The goal isn't to have a perfectly rigid model or no model at all. As this quote puts it so well, the art is to hold theories firmly in calm weather and loosen them when the winds change. It's about knowing when to be confident and knowing when to stay curious.
In the end, I think the most powerful thing to take away from all this is that the reality your brain is building, it isn't a finished product. It's a living document. It's a first draft. And you have the power, through new experiences, new people, and new information, to pick up the pen and make edits. So the only question left is, what will your next edit be?